Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I asked a while back on Instagram, on the YouTube community page, and on YouTube and on Facebook for some questions to do a Q&A because I get a lot of the same questions all the time. So I thought I would just answer them all at once. So I have the questions right here in front of me. I just combined them. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. I combined them where they were like keto and weight loss together, then personal. Then that way, if I need to do two separate videos, if this one gets too long, then they're kind of all together. So the first set of questions are going to be keto and weight loss related, and there could be some duplicates in here. I tried to kind of arrange them to where they were, you know, where I could kind of piggyback on the other questions. And so there's 13 keto weight loss questions, and then there are 10 personal, like family questions. So again, those may be in a separate video, but I will let you know at the end of this video if there's going to be a part 2. So let's just get right into the questions. So the first question, when you are starting keto and on a budget, what are the must-haves and the things that can wait? Acquiring all the flour, spices, etc. can be expensive. I completely agree. I'm always saying that you really don't need anything fancy to just do keto, especially if you're just starting out. I do recommend that you just start out simple and not worry about all those other things, except for I'll give you the things that I feel like you should have, and I feel like they're not really too expensive. You know, those of us on YouTube are very lucky that we can actually get some of these products for free to try. And that's why I'm always trying to be very honest about what products I really think are necessary and which ones are not, just so that way I can give you kind of an informed decision on how I feel about those products. As far as any specialty products, the only ones that I really recommend you picking up, and I feel like they're not too expensive if you go to the right places to get them, and that's almond flour, which the best place you can get almond flour is Costco. If you do not have a Costco membership, you may try Sam's Club. We don't have a Sam's Club here, so I do not know if they have almond flour. Also, if you have a grocery outlet, they have really good prices on almond flour. But almond flour really, if you want to do any baked goods, almond flour is something that you will want to have on hand. If you don't plan on doing any keto baked goods, then you can wait on the almond flour and not worry about picking it up, because there's other things you can use instead of almond flour in other situations. So like if you want to use any kind of breading, I would say use pork rinds. Those are cheap, and if you are kind of adverse to the pork rind taste, when you cook it, I don't feel like it has the same taste as of just eating them. Coconut flour, which is cheaper than the almond flour in my area, but coconut flour, you only use a little bit compared to almond flour. So coconut flour is another thing you can use in place of like breading and things like that as well. It doesn't work as well as the almond flour and the pork rinds, but it is something that can be used. So, but you don't use as much of coconut flour as you do almond flour. So those are two, like the flours that I recommend. And again, they, you know, they're not, you don't use a lot of them, so they're not really super expensive if you are only, especially if it's only you doing the keto diet. Other things like the MCT oil and stuff, it is not necessary. It can be very expensive. I do use the powder version in the collagen. Again, collagen is a personal preference. It's not something that's necessary to do keto. The MCT oil is not something that's needed to do keto as well. Protein powder, I like to have protein powder because I like to boost my protein, because it's a little bit harder for me to do so. So that again is a personal preference, but you definitely don't need it to go on. What are some other things? What are the must-haves and things that can wait? So honestly, anything can wait. You don't need any other kind of supplements. You don't need any kind of, even the electrolytes. So like the Zip Fizz, and there's the Perfect Keto electrolytes. There's all different kinds of electrolytes that people use. You can just make your own electrolytes in the form of sole water. So I have shown that before on my channel, and also Elizabeth over at Countess of Low Carb. I will link her video because she has a whole like comprehensive video on making that water, and it's literally just pink Himalayan salt and water. Pink Himalayan salt is one thing I do recommend. It's a very good salt full of minerals and things that you're gonna want to have to replenish your electrolytes. So you don't have to do the Zip Fizz. It is flavored, so it's nice to have, but you don't have to. You can do the Sole water. Other things that can be more expensive on keto, those would be things like the different like grass-fed meats and the pasture-raised eggs and those kind of things. If you can afford them, get them. Like with eggs, I try to get the pasture raised, free range eggs, organic as much as I can, but obviously I can't afford that every single week. So I'm not, you know, always saying I have to have those things. The grass-fed beef and the grass-fed or the free range chicken, those kind of things, I pick it up when I can, but it's not a must have for me. It's really not. So no worries on that stuff. Don't worry about, you know, having to get it. Just, it's hard enough to try to transition over to a different lifestyle to begin with, and the last thing you need to do is try to figure out like all these different things you need. You can do a clean, healthy keto by just having the foods on hand that you can buy in the grocery store. You don't need to do any of this extra stuff. Sweetener, that's the other thing. I do recommend that you do go to a good quality sweetener, only because from my experience and from seeing other people's experience, there are certain sweeteners that will stall people's progress, and it can really be different for everybody. But some people can't use sucralose. Some people can't use like the Equal and the Sweet and Low and Splenda and things like that. Other people can. I don't have any problem with sucralose, monk fruit, stevia. I don't have any issues with any of those, but some people do. But just because of the quality of the sweetener, and they aren't usually, that's another thing you have to watch out for with the things like Splenda and Equal and Sweet and Low, and those, they usually have maltodextrin or dextrose in them, which is sugar, and that's what's stalling people. So just watch the ingredients of your sweeteners. You can get the monk fruit sweetener, which is what I like to use for baking. You can get that in a really big bag at Costco for super cheap. Another place I get them is Grocery Outlet. So that is another thing that I would say that is a must-have, is a good quality sweetener. Question 2, I was rewatching some of your videos from when you were on WW, and you have some excellent meal preps. Thank you so much. How do you feel about keto versus WW? How is it going for you? I like keto a lot better than WW. I do say all the time that I do have to credit WW for helping me learn how to do portion control, helping me learn how to weigh and measure and to track. Those are things that I learned on WW. There's a lot of negatives about it that I don't like. I don't like the weekly weigh-ins. I think they can be really, they can cause obsessive compulsive type habits, and also mainly because the need, I feel like it has this like need to, you have to see a loss. That's just my personal opinion. I don't want to offend anybody by saying that, but it's just my opinion that I feel like you have to see you have to see a loss on this one day of the week. All of our bodies are different, and your bodies fluctuate day to day, and I feel like that is just setting somebody up for a just like this hatred of this scale, which a lot of us have. But if you know, like every Friday morning or every Friday night, whatever you do your weigh-in, and you go to weigh in, it's just like what that scale says is what is supposedly a snapshot of what your week was like. And I don't know, I just don't like, I feel like it's a negative connotation of that. And also I just don't like the fact that well, at least when I was doing WW, now it was just before they did all this new changes with the plans and all that. I was on WW when Freestyle came along, and that's the only plan that I've done, although I have done some of the older plans. But all this new stuff, I have not done anything with those, so I cannot, if I'm saying anything that's not correct anymore, it's because I'm just basing on what I used to know. I don't like the low fat and no fat products that I feel like you have to consume to be able to stay within your points, especially when I was on Freestyle, because if you look at the labels of those ingredients, of those products, it has a lot of things in there like corn syrup and sugars and things like that that I found out later on my body was very sensitive to and caused a lot of inflammation in my body. And I know that now because when I did keto, you have to cut all the sugar out, and you cut a lot of things that have gluten in them, and a lot of things that have just a lot of inflammatory foods like the beans and things like that. And when I took all of that out of my diet, my inflammation went away almost instantly, and that right there is enough to make me feel so good and feel like to know that this is the diet for me. Another thing that it did was it has improved my thyroid, as I have hypothyroidism, and ever since I've been on keto, my thyroid levels have been the best that they have been in years, and I was regularly having to up my medication. And the last time I saw my doctor after I'd been on keto for about 6 months, he was blown away and he had to lower my medication amount, which I've never had to do. So yes, so keto is the lifestyle for me. Number 3, when you first started keto, were you strict with your macros or just count 20 carbs per day? And then number 4 is really similar. Did you start keto at 20 carbs right from the start, or did you gradually reduce your carb intake? This is kind of advice I give to anybody who asks me, how do I start keto? And this, I just give you the advice that how I started keto, which was I did start out at a higher amount of carbs and slowly lowered them. So since I was going right from WW into keto, I took my carbs and I just took a few days and just tracked in the carb manager, which is a normal eating day, what I would normally do when I was on WW. And then that kind of gave me a baseline of how many carbs I was consuming, which was, I think, around, I want to say about 150 to 175 is what I was consuming before. And net carbs is what I'm at. So I decided to do about, I think I did almost a week of doing 50 net carbs. And then the next week I went down to 30, and then the next week I went down to 20. So that's how I did it. So I just feel like it was better to do that, to gradually do it, and also for me to see. It kind of gave me a chance to see how many carbs were in things and what I needed to change in my diet. Plus it helped me get rid of food that I already had in my refrigerator and pantry, and that way I didn't have to waste anything and wait till I was done going through all that before I started. It kind of gave me the opportunity to go through everything as well. So it really helped me. It helped my mindset. It helped me see that I could do it. So I definitely, if you're really nervous about just going right to 20 net carbs, I definitely highly recommend you to do the slow approach to it in whatever way works for you. But being able to track in the carb manager and just seeing exactly what kind of carbs you were looking at to begin with, it really helps to see what number you should start out at. If you ever have any questions or you want any advice on any of that, just let me know. Reach out to me on any of my platforms and I will help you with that. Number 5, do you think you will ever return to WW? No, I guarantee I will never return to WW. I kind of had a falling out with them at the end over some billing issues. I did not like their customer service. It was a really bad experience. I had phone calls, I had emails, I talked to supervisors. It was just not a good experience. So because of that, I would never return to WW. If for some reason I ever had to quit keto, which it would take a lot, because like I said, I feel physically better on keto than I ever have. I know this is the diet for me just because of how it makes me feel physically and mentally. But if a doctor or somebody told me that I just can't do it anymore for whatever reason, I would still not go back to WW. For me, it's just a personal preference because of the company. And again, I don't want to offend anybody. This is just my experience, and everybody has had different experiences. And I'm not putting anything down because, like I've said, I have given them a lot of credit for teaching me different tools that I did not have before. And I am grateful for those tools. If I ever had to go back to anything, I would just go back to calorie counting and counting my macros because that's what I did before WW. I just got bored doing it and I felt like I needed some kind of guidelines and guidance, and that's why I went to WW. I did also find myself where I stopped losing. I lost about 45 pounds after about 1.5 years on WW. And then I gained it all back over a course of like another 18 months. So I was on it for 3.5 years, but the last 18 months I was losing and gaining the same 20 pounds and I wasn't changing anything I was doing. And I even changed up my diet. I even tried some of the older plans. I did simply filling and I would do really good for a couple weeks. And then all of a sudden my body would just start gaining. Like I said, I was not doing anything different. So I don't know. My body just wasn't responding well to it. And it could just be my body because it's done that with other plans before as well. So I just have to go with then how I feel physically, and I feel the best on keto, so that's what I'm going to stay at. Number 6, how much have you lost on keto so far? I have watched you since you were counting calories. Well, then you've been watching me for a long time. Prior to quarantine, I lost 25 pounds on keto from I would say I was really keto from about mid-July, because in July was when I started lowering the carbs. So like I was at 50 carbs at the beginning of July. And I lost 25 pounds between July and October when I hit my lowest. I stayed pretty much the same all the way through February. And then I started gaining when all this stuff started happening, the craziness in the world and stress. And then my husband was having a lot of health issues from August through February as well, and which I think is why I was maintaining and kind of losing and gaining the same 5 pounds. I just had a lot of stress and a lot of health issues, and the health issues are still there. But I just, then this quarantine happened and kind of took over that stress. So I don't know. Life is just different right now. But I am slowly getting back on track and just taking back control of my life. Number 7, have you had your cholesterol checked since starting keto? Yes, I had it checked about 6 months after I started keto, and all my numbers were improved by a little bit. I have actually been tracking my cholesterol since February of 2016. That's when I started WW, was in 2016. I started like in May or June of 2016. So so then I started, that's when my numbers had changed. And when I started keto in July, I had talked to my doctor about it, and he wanted to check my levels after 6 months. So we checked them in December. But my numbers in general, just with my weight loss journey and my healthy lifestyle journey, has improved immensely. I'm out of any kind of, I was really high on the highs, really low on the lows, you know, all the numbers were bad, and everything has improved immensely since I've started this journey in general since 2016. And then when I started keto in July, like I said, I talked to my doctor about it, and he just wanted to watch my levels, and everything was fine. In December, like I said, my thyroid, he was really happy with that. And so he said, let's just keep on going and let's just watch everything. And so that's what we're doing. But I'm thinking around June or July, I will be going back again. So I will let you guys know on those results. I have heard, just so things I have read online, is that sometimes your cholesterol can kind of spike right after doing keto, and then it will level out after about 6 months or like 8 months to a year or something. But I think everybody's different with that again. So I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to give any advice on that. But I'm just letting you know, like with me, yes, everything has been fine so far. Number 8, what is your worst trigger food? Definitely fast food, and like things like French fries, potato chips, but fast food in general, like pizza. I really like pizza, but honestly, like the keto pizza alternatives really satisfy me. Anyway, yeah, so those are the types of foods that trigger me. It's not sweets, it's not like chocolates, it's not like ice cream, it's definitely savory food has always been my downfall. So luckily though, keto has a lot of alternatives and a lot of things that you can do in place of those savory foods. So we actually lucked out with that type of thing for me, because I can have all those things. I can just do it in an alternative like method, you know, like a different recipe. You can keto-fy pretty much anything that's a savory food to make it keto friendly. And again, if you want more help with that kind of thing, again, just reach out and let me know. If you have a recipe that you're curious if it can be keto-fied as I call it, let me know. Just send me the recipe and I will help you do that. Number 9, if when you get off track, do you do anything special to get on track? Yes, I definitely have some things that I do personally to get back on track. One of them, the number one thing, I have my little notes here to make sure I don't miss anything, is drink lots of liquids. So water preferably. I feel like it really helps like flush everything out, especially when you get dehydrated, when you're not drinking a lot of stuff, and it, you know, your body needs to flush out all those, what do they call them, glycogen stores, whatever that's called. But anyway, those are things you build up in your body when you are consuming things like grains and sugars and things like that. Number 2 is to get back to tracking. You can really do keto without tracking, because the only things that you really have to track are your carbs. But in the beginning, I do recommend you track. And when you get off track, I recommend you go back to tracking. Even if it's only for a few days, a week, or whatever, just do it, because it'll help you get back into those habits again and making sure you're grabbing for the right foods, you're doing your portion control, all that kind of thing. The third one is eat more fat. I feel like when you go off keto and eat like all the carbs is usually what we're going for. Carbs or sugar, your body is going to you know, not be able to feel satiated. And so it's really important to eat fat to stay full, because you want to make sure you have that full feeling, because when you eat carbs like that, your body goes through them so quickly and then you're hungry again. And so when you're not eating the carbs anymore, your body's going to be hungry. It's going to be wanting those things. So you want to eat lots of fatty foods. So lots of avocado, add in like MCT oil, or make sure you're using oil and butter when you're cooking, add a little bit of cheese to stuff, those kind of things. Intermittent fasting is also another thing, but I do want to stress that I do feel like it's really important to eat when you're hungry. If you are actually having hunger cues, and it's not just cravings, but you're actually having hunger cues, your stomach's growling, you're hungry, you're afraid if you don't eat, you're gonna eat something bad, then break your fast. I don't feel like you should force yourself to do intermittent fasting. I used to do intermittent fasting. I did it for 8 months and had no issues, but like all of a sudden, for some reason, my body doesn't want to do it, so I'm just listening to my body. But intermittent fasting does help after you've been off track, because it does help curb those like snack cravings. Eat as few carbs as possible until you're back into ketosis, or until you're just back to feeling normal again and not feeling, you know, having that sluggish like keto flu type thing. Doing carnivore is a really good time when you're trying to get back on track and get back into ketosis after you've been off track for a while, because there's hardly any carbs when you do carnivore. So just try to eat as few carbs as possible. Don't forget your electrolytes, so drink your Sole water, or if you do, you know, Zip Fizz, or you know, Perfect Keto, any of those things, then do those things. But definitely keep track of your electrolytes, because you could go into have keto flu, and you don't want to have that when you're trying to get back into ketosis. Light and moderate exercise, I feel like again that helps you with the snacking, helps you with just starting to feel good again and starting to make sure you're getting on track. For me, exercise is a good motivator to stay on track. Reach out to a buddy. So anybody, you know, I have my Facebook group, Instagram, people on YouTube, all of us will, you know, definitely be there to help you and support you and get you through, you know, that hump of getting back on track. And the last thing I always say is just to give yourself some grace. Sometimes it's hard to get back on track after you've been off, depending on how long you've been off for. Just give yourself some grace. If you mess up one day, one meal, whatever, don't worry about it. Just get back on the next meal the next day. So, but don't beat yourself up over it. Question 10, any tips you may have for getting carb cravings out of your system? Again, intermittent fasting, like if you are craving pizza, make a keto pizza. If you're craving a hamburger, do, you know, a bunless burger. I mean, just try to replace your craving with something, you know, keto ice cream. Fat bombs are a good thing to have, but intermittent fasting is good. For me, drinking a cup of coffee or a cup of tea helps me for some reason. It just fills up my stomach, and I enjoy those things, and so those are things that I use. Yeah, anything, if you're craving a specific thing, try to find a keto version of it. That's a recommendation there. So again, just reach out if you have a specific, you know, question about different, you know, things that you may be craving, and maybe we can help you out with that. Do you think you go over your fat intake when you do not track macros? Yes, I know I do. And that's one of the reasons why I do try to track at least a few times a month, just to kind of put myself in check. Because I can easily go over my fat, but I don't hit my protein. And hitting my protein, I see optimal weight loss when I hit my protein, and keep my fat under what it's supposed to be. So I definitely go over my fat, and I do have to watch that. So keep that in mind. Maybe you should track if you think you're going to be going over your fat. Have you found a way to keep meals balanced without tracking? It is hard. Again, I just try to, if I feel like I'm going to try a bunch of different recipes in one week, I try to track that week, because I don't know those meals. I don't know what the macros are going to be. But for the most part, I kind of have a good idea. I can mentally, you know, track a lot of this stuff and kind of know what I'm doing. I do try to keep my fat during, like, I try to start my day out with a fatty meal, because it starts me off with in a really good mindset, and then I try to end my day with a really fatty meal. That way it keeps me full. I don't have any like late night snacking. So then my lunch or mid-morning meal or mid-meal, I try to keep that as not as much fat in it, and that way I know, and kind of I try to keep my protein. I try to make sure I add protein to all of my meals for kind of the same reason. you know, just to make sure that everything is kind of balanced. So you just have to kind of look at the ingredients and what they have and just kind of balance it that way. But that's the way I do it. I try to just, like I said, keep fat in the morning, and then in the evening, and then in the afternoon I try to keep it pretty low fat, high protein is what I try to do. But again, everybody's different, so just look at, you know, what you're eating and maybe lessen the amount of like cheese or avocado, that kind of thing, that maybe whatever maybe your fat source in it. Just kind of look at those kind of things. How long does it take to make your meal plan? Do you write it all out then shop? It just depends. I pin throughout the entire week. I like pin different recipes, or if I see something on YouTube, I make a note of it. Usually I can sit down and do my meal plan in about an hour or so. I usually do it Friday night after I have pinned everything through the week, and then I write out my own meal plan, and then I do my grocery list, and then I shop. I have tried to just go to the store and get inspiration, but I forget things or I don't have an ingredient. I like to have lists. For me, I have to be very organized with a list, or else I'm gonna go crazy when I go to the store. So yes, I do make my meal plan first. I write it all out, and then I look at my meal plan and I make my grocery list from that, and then I go and look and see. I write everything out, even if I think I have something, because I'll think, oh, I have chicken broth, I don't need to get any at the store. And so I don't get any, and then I don't have anything. So I write out everything on one paper of everything I need. Then I go around to my pantry, my freezers, my deep freeze, and I cross things out that I already have, and then I make my grocery list from there. So it's kind of a duplicate process, but that's just what works for me. Okay, those are all the keto weight loss questions. So I think I will end this video here, and we're gonna do a part 2 with the personal, what did I call them? Personal and family questions. So if you guys have any further questions related to keto and weight loss, ask them down in the comment section, or any clarification of anything that I talked about, or maybe I didn't clearly, you know, talk about, or didn't answer the question as well as you wanted me to answer it. Let me know down in the comment section so I can give you a better clarifying answer. Or again, if this triggered more questions, let me know down there in the comment section, and I will answer them down there. And I will see you guys in part 2 of this video. Thank you. Bye guys.